That's it for us. Wrapped up here on the 4 o'clock news. Handed over to the 5 o'clock team now, Paul and Ann.
All right, you two, thank you. A lot to do here at 5 o'clock. Coming up on Eyewitness News at 5, the Christopher Commission releases its long-awaited report on the LAPD and makes some shocking recommendations.
Panel calls on Chief Gates to step down, and the chief will talk about whether he stays or goes.
An officer is fired after another police beating is captured on videotape.
And cleanup begins on the home of the pack rat as the family finally moves out.
And the zoo in San Diego has a rare reptile, a two-headed snake.
Plus, you will be able to see the eclipse from right here in the Southland, and Charmaine Wilkerson has a special report. Stay with us for all the news.
Next on Eyewitness News, number 1 in Southern California.
Call now and get a hot deal on a Domino's Pepperoni Pizza Feast, packed with pepperoni and loaded with cheese. Call Domino's now and get a medium pepperoni pizza feast for only $8.99 and get another one for only $4 more.
In naming the Maxima one of their top cars, Car and Driver, Road and Track, and Automobile wrote close to 10,000 words of praise. But since a picture is worth 1,000 words, read this. The Nissan Maximas start under $20,000. Test drive one today.
KABC TV Channel 7 welcomes Ringling Brothers and Barnum and Bailey Circus to Long Beach, LA, and Anaheim. Tickets at the box office and Ticketmaster.
Number 1 in Southern California, Channel 7 KABC TV, Los Angeles. Now, Paul Moyer, Ann Martin, Johnny Mountain Weather, and Jim Hill Sports. When news happens, you see it happen on Eyewitness News at 5.
It started with a beating 4 months ago in Los Angeles, and today the Christopher Commission made some shocking recommendations for the LAPD. Good evening, everybody. It is now 5 o'clock. The report in question calls for Chief Gates to step down. 2 other people tonight have already resigned. Chairman Warren Christopher released the results of the report this morning. The beating of Rodney King triggered the 100-day-long study of the city's police department, as you know. With us tonight is Linda Breakstone. She's been on this story all day. She reports tonight on some of the panel's key findings, surprising as they may be. Linda.
You know, Mayor Bradley, who appointed the majority of the Christopher Commission and who has for nearly 18 years appointed the Police Commission, is the only one unscathed by today's report. Instead, the panel wants Bradley to now appoint the police chief, a new one. The commission wants Chief Gates to stay on board, but only long enough to help Mayor Bradley pick a new police chief.
Chief Gates has now served for 13 years, and hence we believe it is appropriate to commence the transition in the office of Chief of Police. We hope that Chief Gates will remain in office while his successor is chosen and that he will aid in the implementation of this report.
And Christopher said any new chief should serve only 2 5-year terms, be appointed by the mayor, and should no longer be in civil service, but subject to removal by the mayor and a 2/3 vote of the city council. Without personally blaming Gates, Christopher condemned the numerous car-to-car computer messages in which officers make light of using excessive force. Capture him, beat him, and treat him like dirt. A full moon and a full gun makes for a night of fun. The commission also found more ethnic slurs, such as, "We're hunting wabbits," actually, Muslim wabbits. The 5-member police commission, which in theory oversees the department, was also called upon to leave for the good of the city.
Accordingly, we recommend that the Police Commission should now be reconstituted with members not identified with the prior controversy with the chief of police.
Christopher wants his 10-member panel to reconvene in 6 months to check the progress of his recommendations, which included operational changes in the police commission. Christopher said the police commission staff should be headed by a civilian, not an officer. Brutality complaints should go to the police commission, not individual police stations, and brutality complaints should be investigated by internal affairs, not police stations. Since the recommendations do not carry the force of law, city leaders may be headed for a fight which will make the last 4 months seem tame in comparison.
Surely true. Big city charter changes we'd be talking about
Big
to
changes.
put these things
Well, you're
into work.
talking about the voters need to approve those. Yeah, absolutely.
Election, everything. Well, lots of sides to hear from tonight on all of this. Chief Daryl Gates has declined so far to step down as the commission report recommended, but at least 2 police commissioners have offered their resignations, apparently hoping that Gates will do the same. Mark Coogan is standing by at Parker Center with the Eyewitness news van, and we're going to go to him live now for more on this story. Mark.
Well, Ann, after reading a stinging report that calls on him to retire, Police Chief Gates this afternoon said that he is going to stay on, at least until voters decide whether the Chief of Police should have a limit imposed upon his term. At the same time, Gates' nemesis on the Police Commission, Melanie Lomax, agreed, and she said she will resign. Sam Williams would not comment on reports that he is ready to go too. Those some of the reactions today to a Christopher Commission report that says the LAPD is marred by brutality, racism, and a breakdown in leadership. Chief Gates made it plain he will ignore the Christopher Commission's recommendation that he begin to ease himself out of office.
They say they hope that I would stay while my successor is being picked, but of course you don't want to pick a successor until the changes have been made that are needed to fix a 5-year term. I don't know when that's going to take place. It may be too long for me. I may want to get out of here before that time.
But 2 hours later, the Police Commission head, Melanie Lomax, who led the unsuccessful effort to suspend Chief Gates, announced she would abide by the Commission's wishes, and she resigned.
I am prepared to make any sacrifice necessary to further those ideals and to promote the healing within the city of Los Angeles, which we all know needs and must take place.
Veteran Police Commissioner Sam Williams refused to comment on Mayor Bradley's announcement that Williams, too, would resign. The beating of Rodney King, the incident that brought the Christopher Commission to life, has been called an aberration by Chief Gates. Today, while saying he will implement the Commission's reforms, Gates said the Commission presented a negatively skewed perspective of the LAPD. But some police commissioners said the Christopher panel got it right.
He has said right along that this is the best department in the country. Basically, there's nothing wrong with it. And the report seems to say there are quite a few things wrong with it. And the worst thing that comes out of it is that he's never been willing to discipline sufficiently to dampen down the use of excess force.
With the report itself, it appears when they talk about significant numbers, I think that that's probably not an aberration. But on the other hand, maybe the chief was unaware. Now he is aware. And now I think he's said in his statement he wants to move on and he wants to stay on to correct this problem.
Is he the man to stay on and correct it, or is he part of the...
Well, at least at this particular point, he's the chief, and he's the chief. That's all there is to it.
The Police Commission has been a revolving door of late. 5 new appointees in the last 12 months. Lomax would make 6, and Sam Williams would mean a 7th person would have to be appointed. Commissioner Stanley Scheinbaum said today that he would not resign. He was not inclined to resign. Commissioner Michael Yamaki said he would if there was a consensus that all commissioners should go for the good of the city. Surveying all this, Chief Gates said he's staying. Reporting live from Parker Center, this is Mark Coogan, and now let's go back to the studio.
Mark, are we getting into a situation that we found ourselves in a couple of months ago where we've got the chief saying, no, I'm not leaving, and we've got other pressure, including Mayor Tom Bradley, saying, yes, you are, and then we've got this battle going on again?
Well, certainly the battle would seem to be over, frankly, right now under the circumstances. The chief got his job back, and the police commission is appealing to try and get that suspension to stick. But let's say the chief is in place right now. The chief has said he's going to implement these recommendations. The police commission says it will do its part. The mayor certainly said he'll do his part. And the mayor, of course, is eager to put that ballot measure on the ballot to shorten or impose a term limit on the chief of police. So I say probably what's going to happen is any progress in implementing the report is going to be done with existing personnel, with the exception of the police commission, which seems to be changing as we speak.
Yes, it does.
Thanks,
Mark
Mark.
Coogan, thank you very much for that clarification. Obviously, for police officers on the beat, they learned about this probably on television, maybe on the radio, reading the newspapers. They didn't have a lot of time to read the whole Christopher Commission report, that's obvious. But a few we talked to didn't like the recommendation that Chief Gates leave office. They believe he's needed to lead the department through the other changes that are recommended.
I think the chief should stay as long as he feels that he's effective here. As far as I'm concerned, I believe he's been effective, and I think he's been a good chief.
I think it'd be a grave mistake right now, especially in the midst of what we're involved in, to change command at the upper levels of the organization. To me, is not a real bright idea, but it's not my decision.
Many of the officers we talked to today on the street say it's going to be a long time before things get back to normal on the LAPD. Ann?
More reaction, Paul. During a news conference at City Hall this afternoon, Mayor Bradley gave his thoughts about the commission's findings today. And for more on what the mayor had to say, we turn to reporter Linda Moore. She is standing by with a news van live at City Hall. Linda.
Well, just about an hour ago, the mayor gave his response, his public reaction to this long-awaited report. And as many people know, the mayor has been in the center of this controversy just as much as the police chief. The King beating brought to a head a long-standing feud between the mayor and the police chief. And many are saying a score one for the mayor on this one. The findings could certainly seem to be a victory for Bradley, particularly the call for Gates to step aside.
I hope that Chief Gates, upon further reflection, will also follow the Commission's recommendations. According to the Christopher Commission, Chief Gates should now commence the transition to a new chief of police.
Now, the mayor said if Gates does not step aside or retire on his own, the mayor said he'll start to think of options down the road. He said right now that is premature. He wants to wait and see what Gates is indeed going to do. Now, it is pretty much up to the city council to implement many of these suggestions, at least many of them. And it is interesting because of that, Bradley is asking the commission to remain active. Bradley does not apparently want this to become another political battle between the council members.
And I also asked the City Council to speedily approve the laws needed to implement the other key Commission recommendations. This is no time to tinker with the Commission's solutions or to let political differences block our way. The Commission's recommendations should be adopted as written without change. For that reason, I today asked Warren Christopher and his commission to stay on duty. I want the Christopher Commission to be a watchdog over the political process. The Commission's continued presence will help all of us come together to do what must be done.
And Bradley says the conclusion of this report is an opportunity for the city to clean up its mistakes of the past. Live here at the mayor's office, I'm Linda Moore, back to you in the studio.
Thanks, Linda.
Linda, thank you. We heard from the mayor there talking about the recommendations. Many of the Christopher Commission's recommendations now drop squarely in the lap of the City Council. Already, there are promises of very quick action. And renewed calls tonight for Chief Daryl Gates to step aside. John North at City Hall today as the report came down.
The Council must approve many of the Commission's recommendations. The proposals that require charter changes, which eventually will be submitted to voters, such as limiting the police chief's term in office. The same City Council which voted to nullify the Police Commission's attempts to suspend Chief Gates. There are new members now who campaigned for Gates' resignation and a new resolve among the veterans. Councilman Zev Yaroslavsky agrees that there should be a transition period and the chief should resign, and it should begin now.
The management of the department and their subordinates had the freedom and felt the freedom and the license to run the department as their own fiefdom.
Councilman Michael Wu was joined by two new colleagues and community leaders, all demanding that the chief immediately resign. All were critical of the chief's comments at his news conference and his refusal to resign.
The chief's comments have left me more convinced than ever that he is not the one to oversee reforms in the LAPD. The chief should step aside and let the healing begin.
The chief is a liability to the health, the welfare, the public image of the city of Los Angeles.
Generally, the City Council praised the Commission's work and recommendations, though there are some differences over some proposals, such as reconstituting the Police Commission. Most, like City Councilwoman Joy Pikus, favor at least limiting the next police chief's term of office. She favors a long transition period for Chief Gates.
My feeling is that the transition period would require a year, and that's an appropriate transition time.
They universally condemn the racism highlighted in the report.
It is more appalling that the undisguised evidence was not discovered and dealt with by the management of the department.
It has to come top to bottom, in which this department treats every citizen, no matter how different one from another, with the same dignity and the same respect that they'd want to be treated themselves.
Within the next 2 weeks, City Council committees will begin hearings on ways to implement the Christopher Commission recommendations, and that includes term limits for the police chief. Council still isn't quite certain how to start the battle, but now that it has the ammunition, the City Council is ready to go to war. At Los Angeles City Hall, John North, Channel 7 Eyewitness News.
Still ahead tonight, our coverage of the Christopher Commission report continues with reaction from a local leader.
And of course, Ann, it all began with Rodney King. His attorney comments on the report today.
Other news, too, in Orange County, an officer videotaped beating a suspect is fired.
I know what I like to eat. That's easy. Making sure it's healthy, that's not so easy. But Healthy Choice makes healthy eating very easy. Because these meals are simply delicious. The dinners and entrees are many of my favorite foods. Pastas, chicken dishes, the recipes I make when I have time. But all low fat, low cholesterol, and low sodium. If you want good tasting food, there is a choice. And with Healthy Choice, the choice is yours.
How much is your checking account costing you? Did you ever add it up? They're charging you month after month. Well, now look what you get when you open a checking account at Great Western. It's free. You don't have to pay any charges for 6 months. Think of all the money you'll save. So give Great Western Bank a call. There's a branch near you that's giving away free checking.
Hi, this is Ken and Barkley. Hi, this is Ken and... Hi. 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 Hi, we're Ken and Barkley.
And you're watching television. If you were listening right now to 790 KBC Talk Radio, here's what you'd be hearing.
Actually, KABC
Talk Radio.
Hi, we're Ken and Barkley.
If you were... I beg your pardon. One more time.
You want to do the hi, we're Ken and
No,
Barkley?
that's all right.
I think I could actually handle your line.
Hi there, we're Ken and Barkley from 790 KABC Talk Radio, where we do the morning show with news, sports, weather, traffic, and other stuff.
Southern California is the most ethnically diverse region in the country. But has the Southland melting pot reached the boiling point?
There was no doubt in any of our minds that we were marked for death by this individual.
With racial tension ever present, reporter Mark Brown goes to the streets to show how people are working together, building bridges of trust and hope for future generations. United We Stand, starting Wednesday at 6, only on Channel 7 Eyewitness News.
Rodney King is the man whose beating triggered the Christopher Commission investigation, and Rodney King was pleased with the report that was put out today. Our Art Rascone talked with King's attorney today, and Art is standing by right now with a news van to give us a live report on that. Art.
All right, Ann, Paul, this is where it all happened, right here last March. The spark that ignited the furor over the Los Angeles Police Department's tactics. It was Rodney King who pulled into this lot right here and was yanked out of his car. 4 officers brutally beat him while more than a dozen others looked on. The man who captured all of this on video lived right across the street, George Holliday. He was not available for comment today, but Rodney King, through his attorney, was. The man whose beating shocked the nation stayed away from the media today. Rodney King's reaction, however, did come through his attorney, Steve Learman. On the general issue of whether he agreed with the commission's findings, King had this to say.
He endorsed its findings before they were announced. I'd like to see now what Chief Gates has to say insofar as the commission's findings, now that the commission's findings include the strong suggestion that he immediately step aside and rather help in the transition to find the new chief of police.
Police Chief Daryl Gates' vow to stay on board only infuriates King and his attorney. Others in the neighborhood where King was beaten say the commission's report was not strong enough.
They should oust Daryl Gates because he's no good. He's a no good commissioner. Yeah. He's against blacks. He just don't like a black man. You can see that from the Rodney King beat. And he didn't say nothing. It was all right. We're all well and fine. I had a son to get killed by the LAPD years ago.
Regardless of what people say, the commission's report is exactly what King and his attorney were looking for. What it does is give them more clout in the federal lawsuit against the city's police department.
The most important product of the Christopher Commission's findings are those Monell-type indications. That is to say, the Monell case stands for the proposition that a public policy or practice which results in constitutional deprivations is illegal, unethical, unconstitutional, and can make the municipality liable in damages.
The only concern now that Steve Lehrman has, Rodney King's attorney, is that these recommendations are implemented. He said he will watch closely to make sure they are. Reporting live, Art Rascone, Channel 7 Eyewitness News.
Right, Art?
Art, thank you. Another case involving a police officer using excessive force, allegedly. Orange County police officer in this case who lost his badge for allegedly using excessive force. He is fighting to get that job back. As Barney Morris tells us tonight, the former officer claims that he was only trying to quell a drunken near riot.
26-year-old Keith Notek was fired as a Laguna Beach police officer some 2 months ago, but he is seeking reinstatement before a 3-member personnel board. The hearing began today, and for the first time, a personnel hearing has been open to the public and to TV cameras. Notek was fired for allegedly using excessive force in arresting a man outside a wild party in South Laguna a year ago. The incident was videotaped by a citizen, and the tape was shown to the hearing today. As the tape began, an officer, identified as Notek, is seen kicking someone lying on the ground. A car blocks the view, but witnesses have identified the man being kicked as 25-year-old Kevin Dunbar. Later in the tape, Dunbar is shown being led away and put into a police car. An attorney for the city told the board today that the kicking was totally inappropriate and excessive. Notek's attorney, Gregory Peterson, described the situation that night as a near riot and very dangerous for the police officers.
That this was a riotous situation, that one officer had already been in a fight for his life and darn near lost. That another officer was fending off while this first officer, Officer Lowry, was fighting for his life, had fended off a crowd of drunk, angry individuals at a party.
The attorneys representing both sides in these hearings estimate that they will last anywhere from 1 week to 10 days. This is Barney Morris reporting for Channel 7 Eyewitness News, Laguna Beach.
All right, coming up on the program next tonight, some top scientists come out against the space station.
And a family finally leaves their home, that home that is knee-deep in trash.
With the Pacific Bell calling card, you can easily charge calls wherever you are, whether you're just down the street or somewhere up the coast. But unlike most calling cards, Pacific Bells is based on your own familiar phone number. And since it's welcome at most every phone, it's really the only calling card you need to hang on to. Pacific Bell. We're making things easier everywhere.
Over there!
Let's go! Hurry! Jody,
From Steven Spielberg's classic motion picture comes a breathtaking new ride for the whole family. Have the adventure of your life when you ride with E.T.
Oh.
Now at Universal Studios Hollywood.
Know where I am? I'm at one of the finest resorts in the world, and I love it because everything's right here. I can relax in the sun, eat marvelous food, enjoy a room with an ocean view. There's fabulous entertainment, friendly service, and it's all included in the price. But what makes this resort really fun is that it takes me to some of the world's other great vacation spots.
See the Carnival Cruise specialists at May Company Travel, the travel difference, located in May Company stores.
It's GMC Truck Summer Show and Sell. We'll show you this summer's big selection of new GMC trucks, like this new SLT Jimmy with standard 4-wheel anti-lock brakes and elegant leather trim interior, the sporty Sonoma, Safari with available full-time all-wheel drive, or Sierra with the highest resale value of any full-size pickup. Then we'll sell you with big summer values. GMC Truck Summer Show and Sell. Find out what's happening at your GMC truck dealer today.
Maybe you saw the pictures on our news last night at 5 o'clock. Some folks in South Central living literally on a pile of garbage with roaches and whatnot. That family in South Central Los Angeles finally left their rat and roach-infested home this afternoon. A representative from the health department arrived this morning and couldn't believe what he saw. Susan Campos was there too with more.
An inspector from the health department describes this home in South Central Los Angeles as one of the worst he's ever seen. Construction crews were shocked when they arrived yesterday and found the owner of the house sitting on stacks and stacks of trash. Ruby Smith told city workers she lives here with her 2 granddaughters and her great-grandson. But when health inspectors asked to see the little boy this morning, they said he was staying with relatives.
The child wasn't on the property when I arrived. I can't get a physical description or refer it to any agency. I don't know where the child is at this point in time. The occupants in the back indicated that the child is with a grandparent.
Neighbors say they cannot believe a small child was living in such terrible conditions.
I thought it was a very pathetic case of a child having to live in squalor.
Tiffany Jones lives here with her grandmother. She says she tried to take her nephew outside as much as possible and that the situation has been terrible.
You know, she raised me since we was little, and you know, you can do so much. Because I was put in a bad position anyway, you know, with my mother passing and all that, so I had to go by her rules.
As they cleaned today, mice were running everywhere, but the family still did not seem anxious to leave.
Actually, they haven't expressed an interest in leaving, period, but in order for us to do the construction, to build the house back up, and we have to have them out.
Although they were supposed to be out yesterday, they waited until this afternoon to leave. For now, the health department says they can't do anything, but that once they move back in, they will be watching them closely. In South Central Los Angeles, Susan Campos, Channel 7, Eyewitness News.
The space station's shaky future took another blow today as leading scientists lined up against the NASA project. Scientists representing physicists, chemists, and other researchers who rely on federal funding told a Washington news conference today that the space station Freedom is so expensive that it is becoming a threat to all science.
Even if the science funding can somehow be preserved this year, we will find ourselves facing an even worse problem next year and each year thereafter as the space station expenditure grows.
Well, there are thousands of Southland engineers who rely on the space station project for their jobs. But scientists today said that Freedom's $30 billion price tag threatens all other projects. And that's going to be a tough one to call. Been pointing towards that space station for years and years.
Yep, a lot of disappointed people there if it doesn't come through. Let's take a deep breath, all right, and get ready and relax, because Johnny's about to tell us about what looks to be some improving weather, right?
Well, the rain has gone away for us, but it's hanging around for some other folks a little bit.
Really?
Yes, we're going to tell you about that. And also, we've been shaking here in the Southland a couple of times. We'll tell you about that as well, and also have a forecast for you. Oh, and we have a kitten. All of that when we come back.
Time to rise and shine, fun seekers. Southwest Airlines fun fairs are back.
Well, you've waited so long for a fare to get so nice and low now. You really should fly.
Remember what fares were like before Southwest Airlines? Well, our new fun fares are so low now you can fly just for the fun of it.
Along with us, 'cause we got a lot of things to do now. You really should fly. Fun, 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 flying Southwest on a fun fair today. Fun, fun, flying on a fun fair.
Well, after all, it's still a car. It's not like it had 6 wheels or nuclear power or something. But what it is the first car made in this country, from scratch. The way it's made. The way people care about how it's made. It's all new. We're proud of this car. It shows what you can do when you're willing to start all over again.
Grand Hotel the Musical. About power, promises, bedrooms, scandal, romance, swindles, confessions, love, suspense, and lust. And for all this, they awarded it 15 major awards. Imagine that. All those Tony Awards for all that dancing, mystery, and passion. Good for them. Grand Hotel the Musical at the Pantages Theater. Lust is not forever. You've only got till July 13th.
Looking good, feeling great. Family Fitness keeps my body in shape.
It's the final days to save 50%. 2 people for the price of 1 both pay monthly dues, or 1 person half price plus monthly dues. Check White Pages or call 411 for center nearest you.
Family Fitness is where I belong.
Got up this morning, which was my first good move.
That was a good move.
And said, the rain's caught a plane gone east.
That's pretty good.
Just right
what
out
a
of here.
pretty day.
Yeah, beautiful day.
And but we popped in a little bit of haze, you know, with all of that, when we had 1 day of clean air with a little bit of moisture.
It was all right.
And we started out this morning at 6:30. We had an earthquake, and the folks out at Palm Desert had a rude awakening at 2:06, 3.3 on the Richter scale. And if that were not enough, and evidently it was not, because up at Castaic, a mild aftershock of the last Friday's earthquake up there. This one happened at 3:25 and was 2.4.
Those early morning calls in the dark are not good.
No.
I don't like that at all.
They get the nerves going pretty
Yeah,
good.
that's right.
You wonder
It's-
if
what-
something more is coming.
You don't have to brew coffee. that is one of the good after effects of it. We're going to take a look at the forecast right now. We're going to go outside to find out kind of what is going on, and the rain's still coming down. No, they've pulled back. What have I said? It was a waterfall. Partly cloudy skies right now. The temperature at 73, humidity at 57%, winds from the south at 12, and the pressure is at 29.96. And our high today was 78. A guy called and said, boy, we really missed the forecast. Well, we were thinking about an 81. Low clouds hung in there. We'll show you a little bit more of that in just a second. The overnight low is 61. Time of sunrise and sunset. Let's take a look at the satellite picture. The 3D kind of tells the whole story. Well, look, along coastal area, we were hanging in there all day. And overnight, look, the low clouds are building in about halfway down Baja, about 400 or 500 miles. And by the afternoon, thunderstorms pop up. You want to know where the moisture went? Well, that's the evidence of it. It's still moist over to the east of us right now. As a matter of fact, over Utah, they've had some very strong thunderstorms, and a little bit you can see the activity over the west, and very strong thunderstorms. Severe weather kicking up in Missouri today with the tops. This is what this is, 53,000 feet. And here is the thunderstorm, 4,500. You can see the action right through there. As thunderstorms again are building over the eastern part of the country, the midsection, and all the way down into the Gulf area along the Atlantic coast, and even into the west. And part of that, in fact, has to do with the temperatures. Very, very warm, as we've got temperatures into the hundreds across the southern section of the country. And low clouds and fog will be developing late tonight. The overnight low should be about 62. High tomorrow. We'll show you that. High tomorrow will be warming up just a bit to about 80, and the spread of the valley temperatures, 85 to a 72 with hazy sunshine. We'll show you some other temperatures, the lows that we're expecting along our coast, and then the highs that we're expecting for other areas, especially into the valleys. Santa Clarita should be about 91. The mountains will be 79, and the desert should be about 105. This is the 5-day. The moisture is going to be hanging around in our desert and mountain area, and temperatures will be into the mid-80s. And I have Anthony here. And this is Anthony. Those of us who know him well call him Tony.
You don't know him that well.
Well,
He
I
didn't
do.
like that. See what
Well,
he
he
said to
did.
you?
No, he's trying to tell me, trying to talk with me. Would you talk with me one more time? Anyway, the ID number is 18206, a little male, and there's a number for you to call, and needs a home, and is full of love, as you can see.
Oh, he's darling.
Yeah.
He wants to get
Fine.
out and explore, but
Yes.
we're not going to let him.
Let's go see Mr. Cameraman and write our initials with our nail. That would be fun. No, come here.
You can call him Tone.
Oh, you'd be a dangerous father for a cat.
Yes, I am a dangerous father.
Thank you.
Okay.
Still ahead tonight, the president of the Urban League joins us right here with reaction to the report from the Christopher Commission.
And you don't have to go to Hawaii or Mexico to see the eclipse. Charmaine Wilkerson tells us when we can see it right here in the Southland.
We are going to show you a very rare reptile, a two-headed snake.
The city waited for 4 months for the report. Up next, more on the Christopher Commission's recommendations for the LAPD.
Consistency is the whole banana. I mean, 30 minutes a day in order to make that really pay off. You know, you have to really hit it. You got to do it. There ain't no other way. If you work 24 hours a day in a gym, you could have a pretty amazing body, but the idea is that you still want to have a life. So, 30 minutes a day will just about cut it for you. You can feel good about yourself and look real hot, too.
Come celebrate our 29th anniversary at Bally's Holiday Spa and get 2 people for 1. Call 1-800-WORKOUT. American Airlines proudly announces daily nonstop service from Los Angeles to London's Heathrow Airport. And with our expanded service from across the U.S., American will become the #1 American airline to London. So come with us to Great Britain's first city on America's #1 airline.
That's all right. I'll take your seat. Come on, Chip, come on.
No matter what happens to the stock market, no matter which way interest rates go, there will always be family dinners. And people will always need a place to have them. That's why home loans are one of the safest investments an institution can make. And that's where Home Savings has put its depositors' money for more than 100 years.
Excuse me, sir. Are you waiting for the doors to open here at Silo tomorrow?
No, not exactly.
Not trying to be first in line for those big savings on top-brand electronics and appliances?
No, not me.
Come on, sir. A little greed's nothing to be ashamed of.
I'm not ashamed. Greedy.
What are you waiting here for?
The car died.
Oh, yeah? Lucky you had the coffee, donuts, and the Silo ad to read.
The newspaper just happens to be open there.
I see you got some items circled.
It's a ring from the coffee.
Red coffee?
Jelly donut.
Silo. Televisions, audio, and appliances.
The Terminator is back. Come to Subway, buy a 32-ounce drink, and you'll get a Terminator 2 Collector's Cup free. But hurry, before it's too late.
Updating our top story for tonight, the Christopher Commission has recommended sweeping changes in the Los Angeles Police Department to end what the commission described as racist behavior by a group of problem officers. Chairman Warren Christopher offered several solutions to the problem, including this one.
Our commission believes that virtual lifetime tenure of the chief of police under the present system is not good management. Instead, we recommend that the chief should serve a 5-year term, renewable at the discretion of the police commission for 1 additional 5-year term.
And there was this reaction from Mayor Bradley and from Chief Daryl Gates.
Chief Gates should now commence the transition to a new chief of police. To accomplish the Christopher Commission's goal, the City Personnel Department and the Police Commission should begin an open nationwide search for the city's next chief of police.
But of course, you don't want to pick a successor until the changes have been made that are needed to fix a 5-year term. So I don't know when that's going to take place. It may be too long for me. I may want to get out of here before that time.
Chief Gates said that he does not expect to, in his words, just run away. Paul.
And as you know, the Urban League has been one of the Chief Gates' strongest critics, a critic also of the LAPD. Joining us tonight is John Mack, president of the Urban League, with his reaction, personal to today's developments. You told us a moment ago you were encouraged by what happened today. Let me ask you about the chief. He says he's not going to run away. He says that he is going to wait possibly until the voters have their say. That could be until June of 1992 or further. What do you think about that?
Well, I think that the chief really has to come to terms with reality. Time has really passed the chief by. He needs to understand that he's a part of the problem, not a part of the solution. This report, which I think is an excellent report that was compiled after many, many hours of hard work by honorable citizens who have no axe to grind. They aren't anti-Daryl Gates, aren't anti-LAPD. I think clearly what they're saying is that if we're going to be able to have those recommendations, those far-reaching recommendations implemented, we need to have a new leader. We need to have someone who's prepared to head a police department. Yes, a good, sound police administrator, but also someone who is prepared to recognize that in 1991, Los Angeles is a very racially and ethnically diversified city, and we just got to have another viewpoint, another perspective.
But he says he's not going anywhere.
Well, Chief is not God. He may sometimes think he is, but I believe that, frankly, this report can provide the vehicle and should provide the vehicle for the broad base of community support. Now, I think now is the time for some of the people who were silent before, frankly, some of the civic leaders, some of the business leaders, to rally around this report and, frankly, help bring pressure upon Chief Gates and upon the City Council to make sure that the changes are implemented, but equally as important that we get new leadership there.
I'm going to read a quote from the report to you, Mr. Mack, and see if this sums it up for you. It sort of did for me. It says that the LAPD has an organizational culture that emphasizes crime control over crime prevention and that isolates the police from the communities and people they serve.
Absolutely. I think that was right on target. Clearly, that focus, which brings into play one of the critical recommendations, the whole notion around community policing.
Foot patrols.
To have the officers be able to interact with people, the good people. See, one of the problems that we have maintained right along is that the overwhelming majority of the people who live in South Central Los Angeles are not lawbreakers. They are good, law-abiding citizens, and all too often police officers who live in different areas come in with that mentality of let's get the bad guys. Frankly, begin to see a potential gangbanger behind every black teenage male face. They see a potential criminal behind every black male face, and we need to make sure that they come in contact with all kinds of people under positive, non-confrontational situations.
In 1965, after the Watts riots, the McCone Commission issued a report that said there was lack of community involvement on the part of the LAPD, that there were racist elements in the LAPD. Sound familiar, doesn't it?
Yes.
Here we are, 26 years later, we're saying the same thing. Why should we believe it's going to change now?
Well, I suppose I'm the perennial optimist. Maybe I'm naive, but I would like to think that we have a new opportunity. We're going to see what Los Angeles is made of. We will see what this city, its leadership in the public and private sector, and the general citizenry, if they really want to face up to the realities that we need to change the police department for the better, so that all of us can be supportive of it. All of us want to have a good, strong police department. I think that maybe this time around there'll be a commitment on the part of people to follow through and make sure that the report is not filed and gathered dust.
Mr. Mack, President of the Urban League, thank you very much for being with us this
Enjoy
afternoon.
being with you.
Up next, we switch gears completely and talk about a 300-pound baby who was born at SeaWorld.
And it is double trouble for keepers of a two-headed snake.
California. You want it cold? You want it now? Let's have a Slurpee. Nobody got the fountain drinks like 7-Eleven. You've got a big thirst? Super Big Gulp. We have Pepsi, Coke, 7-Up, all the flavors.
Nobody else has got that. Buy 4 Super Big Gulp, and we'll give you the 5th one free.
Come on in and check us out. Anything you want, anything you need. We got the friendliest people in town. Hey, California, you thirsty?
Why would you go anyplace else?
Now get a 44-ounce Super Big Gulp for just 69 cents at 7-Eleven.
What kind of buds bloom in the Olive Garden? Taste buds. And when you see our new summer menu of tender grilled dishes, light pastas, garden fresh salads, and luscious desserts, you'll see why we say, now, all the best of summer is yours at the Olive Garden Italian restaurant.
All across the USA, for as long as we've been around, our passengers are our neighbors. This country's our hometown. Every time we fly, every mile of sky, everything we do, USA, USA begins with you.
You were raised on rock and roll and 95.5 KLOS. Rockin' Southern California for over 21 years. KLOS with Mark and Brian in the mornings and great rock and roll all day. 95.5 KLOS, Southern California's home of rock and roll.
On the next Inside Edition, he beat a man to death.
What did you do? I accidentally killed a person.
But due to juror confusion, he served only 5 months.
My thoughts were, oh my gosh, how could we do this?
And nobody could do a thing.
It's very, very difficult to deal with.
Plus, worried about having your car stolen? Here's a way to beat the thieves. Inside Edition. On the inside, it's a whole different story. See Inside Edition at 7, only on Channel 7.
The U.S. Postmaster General told a Senate subcommittee today that large bonuses paid to postal managers help reduce losses. Some $20 million in bonuses were paid out over the last 3 years, despite a deficit of nearly $1 billion. Anthony Frank said without those incentives, the deficit would have been a lot higher than that.
Well, I guess that would be an entirely different story. But I believe our job is to minimize the rate increases and stretch them out for the longest interval that we can. Inevitably, that means we take a loss.
Repeat, we were talking about $20 million in bonuses. Frank said that he wants to increase first-class postage by a penny to 30 cents. Ann?
Well, on Wall Street, sluggish trading and program selling late in the day triggered a modest loss on the stock market today. The Dow Jones Industrial Average lost 14.76, closed at 2947, and about 150 million shares changing hands there. That's the way it looks on Tuesday.
Okay. Here with a look at what it's going to look like at 6 o'clock. This is Christine Lund to tell us what's coming up at 6.
Okay, that big story, Paul, of course, evolving, new elements developing all the time. We're putting in all of that together. That long-awaited commission report on the LAPD, of course, is out tonight, and the reaction continues to come in. It calls for an overhaul of the entire department to curb brutality and racism, part of the puzzle pieces. Mayor Bradley and several community leaders applaud the commission's findings, including its proposal that Chief Daryl Gates step down, but the chief himself says, now let the voters decide. A preliminary hearing date is finally set for two brothers accused in the brutal murders of their parents at the family's Beverly Hills mansion. And those rolling brownouts continue in the LA Fire Department as firefighters stretch personnel to cope with budget cuts and manpower shortages. Those stories and a lot more coming up when Harold and I get together at 6 o'clock. Hope you'll be there. Laura, of course, on vacation. I get to help out a little bit.
Good enough. Look forward to seeing you. Here's something I think you'll like, by the way, something fun. A new Shamu took center stage at San Diego's SeaWorld this afternoon, born to a killer whale during the matinee performance. Talk about getting more than you bargained for your show dollar. A crowd of about 1,500 spectators witnessed the birth. The baby calf is the first for its mother, who is known as Kasatka. Father lives at SeaWorld in San Antonio. The new little calf weighs about 300 pounds and will be called Baby Shamu. That's a favorite name at SeaWorld, as you're well aware. Sex of the baby not immediately determined. Doesn't matter as long as it's healthy and swimming.
Well, I'll see that animal story and raise you a two-headed snake.
Done.
She called. There's something new at the San Diego Zoo that's making visitors look not once but twice. She is Thelma and Louise. You might say a split personality, named after the movie. Technically, she's a two-headed corn snake from the East Coast. Reptile experts say the two-headed snakes aren't unusual in nature. Really? I've never seen one. But in the wild, they're too slow to survive, which proves that two heads, aren't necessarily better than one.
Well, I think we get
Tonight's
a smile out of both of
segment
those.
in the news.
And so we will continue with sports. And Todd Donahoe up next. Two baseball legends honored today at the White House.
And a $12,000 surprise for a young boy who bought a cheap pack of baseball cards.
Sir, your exterminating service is one of the few businesses that doesn't advertise in the GTE Everything pages. Why is that?
Well, it's because I met Dave. If I advertised in that book, I'd have thousands of customers wanting me to hunt down Dave's family. What? Dave says he'd really hate that.
Businesses that want to be successful advertise in the GTE Everything pages. Those that don't.
I think a lot of people in Southern California are like me. They like their job okay, and they're glad they have something to keep them occupied between weekends. My Nissan is the perfect weekend truck. It's got 153 horses, so it hauls all my toys, and still has room for dinner. This Nissan truck will take you just about anywhere you want to go, and even some places you don't.
Right now, you could save up to $1,500 with factory-to-dealer incentives.
Are thousands flocking to the Franchise and Business Opportunities Expo?
I just got tired of working for other people. I wanted to get my own business. I thought something possibly for myself might be a lot more lucrative and a lot more fun.
Wouldn't everyone like to be their own boss?
Tired of working for someone else? Go to the Franchise and Business Opportunities Expo. Franchises, dealerships, home businesses, investments. You'll find them all this weekend at the Anaheim Convention Center.
I never knew there was that many opportunities out there.
It's terrific.
Home Club's paint department is a stroke of genius. High-quality Pittsburgh paint in all the colors you love. And friendly paint experts to help you. They've even got an incredible machine that lets you see what your home looks like before you paint it. So if anyone tells you they've got a better paint department or a better paint, give them the brush off. Home Club, no membership. Everyone gets our lowest prices.
Feels so dumb. Every summer, football starts in the middle of July, and I go, no,
Already.
but
Well,
again, it's
the
happening.
season has moved up a week as well this year. It starts Labor Day weekend, so they're getting to camp early. The rookies are at the Raiders camp. One veteran is there, and that is Steve Berline, who signed a new contract. The rest of the vets report on Friday. The number 2 pick for the Raiders, Nick Bell, signed a contract. He's in camp. That leaves only a number 1 draft choice, Todd Marinovich, still to report. 50 years ago in the All-Star, the All-Stars were Ted Williams and Joe DiMaggio, and they were at the White House today. Being honored by President Bush, of course, was Williams hit 406 and was DiMaggio with a 56-game hitting streak. They were honored today for their service to baseball and sportsmanship and to their country. Let's face it, they both traded in their baseball uniforms for Uncle Sam's uniforms when wartime came. Ted Williams, in fact, a combat pilot in World War II and Korea. Well, the All-Star game is tonight, the 62nd All-Star game in Toronto. Now, whose idea was this All-Star game? How did it get started? When did it get started? Who were the early stars? We go back to 1933. 1933, a nation gripped by depression, the Dust Bowl in the Great Plains, a new president, a new deal. Also a World's Fair in Chicago. Chicago wanted a sports spectacular to draw attention to the city. For years, baseball fans wanted a game featuring the best players from the American League against the best players from the National League. Arch Ward, the sports editor of the Chicago Tribune, put the two together. And yes, the fans voted for their favorite players. The game was known as the Dream Game, or the Game of the Century. Later, it became known as the All-Star Game. On July 6th, 1933, for the first time ever, baseball's greatest players gathered on the same field.
We have a sellout, a big crowd, a fine day, and I hope the best team wins. Thank you.
McGraw's National League team wasn't the best team. The American League won, and Babe Ruth grabbed the headlines. Fittingly, the Bambino slugged the first home run in All-Star game history, a shot to right off Bill Hallahan of the Cardinals to lead the American League to a 4-2 victory. Well, now here's a nice baseball story. Let's go to Port Angeles, Washington, and meet 11-year-old Adam Brown, who is in the hospital because he had to have his appendix taken out. Well, his aunt wanted to cheer him up, so she got him a box of baseball cards, and inside the box of baseball cards was an autographed Mickey Mantle card worth $1,500. Adam, what would you rather have, your appendix back or the Mantle card?
Mickey Mantle card.
Good choice, Adam. Tour de France, 4th day today, and the Soviet sprinter by the name of, you'll have to bear with me, Abu Japarov was the winner of the 178-mile stage today at the Tour de France. The rest of the winners, standings remain unchanged. Rolf Sorensen is in first place, and American Greg LeMond is 10 seconds back in second place. And another Russian, Sergei Bubka, sets the outdoor pole vaulting record, 19 feet, 11 3/4 inches. He's already topped the 20-foot mark indoors, but this is the outdoor record right here in a meet in Italy. And also should mention that Evander Holyfield, and maybe it's going to be Evander Holyfield and George Foreman, not
Really?
George Foreman and Mike Tyson, first week of November. The two camps are talking and negotiating right now. Las Vegas, November 8th, Foreman and Holyfield 2.
Huh.
So there you go.
When are we going to see Foreman and Tyson?
Foreman and Tyson may not happen. Foreman wants one more shot at the title. He may only have one more fight, and that's why this one would take place in November.
If I was George Foreman, I wouldn't want to fight Mike Tyson either. I really wouldn't.
Got a better chance against Holyfield.
You got it. All right. Thank you, Todd. Still ahead tonight, you can see Thursday's eclipse right here in Southern California. Charmaine Wilkerson will be up next to tell us when and where and what we'll see next.
How about sirloin? Grab all the ribs that you can purloin. Be my little barbecue tonight. Any old time, any old weather, we'll start the fire by rubbing up together. Be my little barbecue tonight.
The Black Angus Barbecue Platter. A great deal of steak, chicken, and baby back ribs. Now only $9.95. But get them while they're hot.
Look at me, new shoes.
Why the best footwear, dude?
Pure speed, babe.
gonna outrun your bug killer.
Guess again, cool bug.
Uh-oh!
Bugs can't escape Raid Anti-Roach Killer. It contains quick-killing pyrethrin, and it's made to work twice as fast as before.
That's life in the fast lane.
Kill bugs dead with Raid Anti-Roach Killer, now available at Alpha Beta, where your cost of living costs less.
You couldn't have dreamed of a better time to save than this. The Mazda Summer Savings Express is here, and the savings are going fast and furious. Mazda Value Packs can save you as much as $2,575. Limited time incentives can save you up to $2,000. But hurry, these savings are meant to move fast. That was fast.
At your local Mazda dealer, now.
Time to rise and shine, fun seekers. Southwest Airlines fun fairs are back.
Well, you waited so long for a fare to get so nice and low now. You really should fly.
Remember what fares were like before Southwest Airlines? Well, our new fun fares are so low now you can fly just for the fun of it.
Come along with us, 'cause we got a lot of things to do now. You really should fly. You'll have fun, 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 flying Southwest on a fun fair today. Fun, fun, flying on a fun fair.
This week, thousands of Californians are joining people from all over the world in a pilgrimage of sorts. Pilgrimage to Mexico or Hawaii to see the total eclipse of the sun. But you can see the partial eclipse here in Los Angeles, and joining us with details on how to do that tonight, Charmaine Wilkerson. Charmaine.
Well, you know, Ann and Paul, solar eclipses do occur somewhere in the world every couple of years, but it's been more than 20 years since we've been able to see an eclipse right here in the Southland. Let's take a closer look now at what you can expect to see on Thursday morning.
The children at St. Pancratius School in Lakewood have learned all about the upcoming eclipse from their very own resident astronomer. When Father Ron Royer moved to St. Pancratius Church, he built a tiny observatory, complete with dome and telescope, right on the school grounds.
I think it's cool because, you know, you go to other schools and stuff and they don't have an observatory.
Royer recently used the mini dome to show the children what they can expect to see in the Southland on the day of the eclipse.
From Los Angeles, 3/4 of the sun is going to be covered up.
The whole process will start at about 10:12 a.m., but the height of the eclipse will occur at 11:28. The visual effects of the deep partial eclipse in the Southland will not be as dramatic as those experienced in the total eclipse. Still, astronomers say it will be something to behold.
What people will see approximately 10:22 in the morning is, and of course with proper filtration, is a very tiny nick or a bite taken out of the western edge or the southwestern edge of the sun. As the time then progresses from then up until approximately 11:24 in the morning for the next hour, a larger and larger portion of the sun's disk will be covered by the moon.
Many Southland residents are expected to view the eclipse from the Griffith Observatory in Los Angeles. Griffith director Ed Krupp is bracing himself for a record number of eclipse watchers.
Over the last several decades, our interest in and our knowledge of astronomy and outer space has really exploded.
In recent weeks, would-be astronomers of all ages have been visiting the observatory to see a presentation on the eclipse and to buy special filters for safely viewing the event.
It was just great. He was saying ooh and ah through the whole thing, and which planet is that, and where's the sun? And
if you come to the Griffith Observatory on the day of the eclipse, chances are you'll be able to watch it from right here. This is a live image of the sun being projected by a solar telescope on the roof of this building. And for those who can't fit inside, there will be portable telescopes stationed all over the grounds. All involved say no eclipse in modern times has drawn this much enthusiasm from the public. It's a far cry from the fearful reactions of ancient civilizations. People like the Mayans, who were intrigued by the heavens, were at the same time suspicious of this phenomenon that seemed to take bites out of the sun.
It almost doesn't matter who you would have talked to in antiquity. Everybody thought eclipses were big trouble.
Solar eclipses can be big trouble if you try to look at them with the naked eye or with the wrong equipment. Tomorrow, a look at how to view the eclipse safely to avoid hurting your eyes.
Of course, if you're in California on Thursday, you can see not only the partial eclipse, but also the total eclipse. All you have to do is turn on the television. I will be in La Paz, Mexico, and I'll have live satellite reports on Thursday starting at 4.
Good.
Good
And what
deal.
you mentioned about being careful the way you watch it is so important.
Absolutely.
We'll hear more about that tomorrow.
Okay, Charmaine.
All right, Charmaine, thank you. Busy night That's
Yes.
it for us. See you at 11 o'clock. The news does continue at 6, though, with Harold and Christine.
Paul and Ann, thank you. In the news tonight, in the wake of the Christopher Commission report, 2 police commission members now say they'll resign, and they are urging Chief Gates to do the same. But the chief says he'll stay on the job and work to implement the commission's recommendations. While community leaders say they're surprised and pleased with the commission, you can't believe Gates won't quit.
A judge sets a hearing date to determine if 2 Beverly Hills brothers should stand trial in the brutal murders of their parents. Rolling brownouts continue in the LA Fire Department as manpower shortages mount. And Gary Franklin reviews a young filmmaker's portrait of life in South Central Los Angeles, Boys in the Hood.
Next on Eyewitness News, #1 in Southern California.
At Circuit City, our sales counselors will let you play with lots of different video cameras and accessories. And when it comes to making sure you find the one that makes everybody happy, you'll find that they're some of the smartest, most helpful people in the business. How do we know that? We've got it on tape.
Circuit City, where service is state of the art.
Attention please, flight 739 has been canceled. Attention, flight 739
Your flight was canceled? No problem, I can reschedule you. I got you an aisle seat. Looks like you'll make that meeting after all.
There are 2 kinds of travelers in the world. Those who deal with the madness, and those who don't have to. Uniglow, we will change the way you travel.
For nearly 2 decades, the San Diego Wild Animal Park has worked to save endangered species. Today, we're bringing some back to life at Dinos to Rhinos, a special exhibit of prehistoric creatures. By seeing it, you'll help us continue our preservation efforts. Of course, we weren't around to save the dinosaurs' necks, but we're not too late to save theirs.
I just read something new. If your athlete's foot won't go away, you could have more than athlete's foot. You could also have a secondary yeast infection. That's right, yeast. It burns and itches just like athlete's foot. To solve this problem, you need Mycotin.
Only Mycotin cures both athlete's foot and secondary yeast infections with myconazole.
Oh, thanks.
So why treat only half your problem?
Step up to the cure. Step up to the Mycotin.
You come on like a dream.
Weight Watchers double fudge cake. Dark chocolate cake, rich chocolate filling, chocolate whipped topping. It's a dream come true from Weight Watchers.
And you're mine.
#1 in Southern California, Channel 7 KABC TV, Los Angeles. Now, Harold Green, Laura Diaz, Dallas Raines weather, and Jim Hill sports. When news happens, you see it happen on Eyewitness News at 6.